Hey guys, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Got a few minutes today to talk about the hybrid working world, the history of work, and where we're going from here as we hopefully are now moving more into a post-pandemic world, though that may be differing in your context. It's been a crazy few months, hasn't it? I mean, we've just had an extraordinary time. And when I think about what's happened as we look at work, I imagine that someone's just gone with a chessboard, a game of chess was playing, and someone's just gone, and as all the chess pieces have exploded in the air, and they've now dropped down on different places on the chessboard, and now we've got to think about, okay, now we've got a different position. How do we do work? And I don't know about you, but mid-March last year, I sent 2 or 3 all-team emails to the Chargifi team and said, hey, we are changing the way we're working. Right now, we're doing it out of necessity because we do not want anybody to get sick. And over the last 18 months, we've had a crazy time as a business as we've pivoted from a business building wireless charging products, deploying into the enterprise with companies like Accenture and Golden State Warriors and Okta, deploying wireless charging into their desks and meeting rooms, into building out an operating system for hybrid work. So not just have we lived this as a company in our products and what we've now delivering to customers in the market, but we've also lived this as a company as we've gone through a complete change. And what change have we gone through? We've gone through this change from an office-based environment. And so kind of what I'm going to chat through for the few short minutes I've got, and Alex, keep me honest with time, is the history of work, what the state of work is now, where are we going to go from here? Is there a role for servant leadership in work? And how does all of this inform hybrid and remote models of working? And so when I talk about work here, obviously everybody can work in different settings, be that in a factory, in a field, in space. And I'm specifically talking about white collar knowledge work that might have been traditionally done in an office. And so when we think about work and we think back, all the way to the beginning of time, humans started to develop tools, and we started to develop tools to make our jobs easier, to become better at our crafts, to see a greater return on investment, a greater yield on what we are producing, be that tools to sharpen things so that we could cut things more easily, like corn and crop, or be that tools that enabled us to catch more fish, and so we could eat more. And tools have enabled us, to move from environments where we were very much hunter-gatherers. Tools have enabled us to essentially create our modern economy where we're not out hunting all the time. And kind of fast forward millennia, we inherit the factories. And you have tools at home, right, pre-industrial age, where you're perhaps making a chair, making a table. If you're a craftsman or craftswoman, you are perhaps going out into the fields to bring in crops. But then in the industrial age happens and you can't compete. You've got a bunch of people that are now building factories and they are using tools at scale. And so fast forward again, a few other 100 years, pre-pandemic 2020, we were still in essentially an industrialized model of work. What do I mean by that? Well, we had inherited essentially a place, a framework, a platform for working that I believe was from the industrial age. That's the workplace where people came in on typewriters before laptops and computers, on notebooks before that. We've all seen the Christmas Carol with Scrooge on a desk writing down numbers. And so we've inherited essentially a production line. And one of the obvious reasons we've done that is because people didn't have the tools to do what they needed to do from anywhere, even with computers. It's only really the last decade or so, with the prevalence of Wi-Fi and supercomputers in our pockets, supercomputers on our desks, and being untethered, that we've actually been able to work from near enough anywhere. And so whilst we've had that forever, the tools are now being commoditized. The last few years, the tools have now been commoditized. And so we do not need to go into the place of work to do work. And what this means, and I don't think we had really as a society cottoned on to just how far we could take this. Again, it was this with the chessboard moment where all the pieces flew up into the air, where now we've got the opportunity to rethink what work is. And so essentially what I think we've got is the repositioning of work and going back to core principles and fundamentals. So what does that mean? Well, work should all be obviously glorifying God, enjoying him, and serving our bosses, serving our shareholders, our board, whoever it might be, as if we're serving the Lord. But it's also an opportunity to get some really great stuff done. And now the office is no longer the platform for getting that stuff done. The working week is now the platform for getting stuff done. The platform's moved from space to a time-centric and people-centric platform in order to get stuff done. And so if you think about it, going back to fundamentals, well, why do we need to go into an office? And so I think of essentially kind of similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a pyramid where at the top you've got kind of your outcomes and what you've achieved, but you've got this pyramid in order to get there. And so kind of going back to first principles, what relevance does physical place have in the world of work? As many companies have obviously now starting to reduce their real estate footprint, whilst many others as well, on the flip side, have continued to increase that. So where are we? Well, at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or this pyramid for work, I believe you've got the why am I working? Those are your mission, your vision, your values. You know, we are in the business as Christians of creating order out of chaos, right? And that's essentially what we're doing. Tim Keller talks about rearranging the raw materials of God's creation in a way that helps the world in general, and people in particular thrive and flourish. So at the bottom of the kind of the foundation of this triangle, you've got why am I working? Your mission, your vision, your values. You've then got what am I working on? This is your OKRs, your KPIs, your objectives, key results, key performance indicators. Why am I working? What am I working on? And now you've got this layer of tools. You've got how am I working? And how am I going to do that? And so this might be Zoom. This might be Slack. This might be Google Docs. This also might be an office. And so offices have now, I believe, been repositioned into this toolkit layer that can help work, particular types of work, get done better than perhaps being completely remote. Those might be collaboration. Those might be brainstorming. Those might be coming to decisions quicker. It might be onboarding into culture at a new company. But really, physical offices is now just a tool in the how am I going to get work done. So you've got why am I working? What am I working on? How am I going to get that work done? And then you've got where, when, and who. And this is the collaboration game. This is the when am I going to do that work? Who am I going to do that work with? And who am I going to make it better with? And then where am I going to do that? Am I going to do that on physical space? We're going to grab a coffee. We're going to go to the office. We're going to whiteboard together and we're going to come up with this fantastic idea. Or am I going to take what I've done in the physical workplace, the ideas, and am I going to move that to production and just cracking on with things at home? And so that's what I kind of feel the state of work is today, that the workplace itself has been repositioned to be just a tool in the layer of how do I get stuff done. And so where do we go from here? Well, as many of you know, and as we discussed a moment ago, the platform for work, if it moves from physical space to the working week, then what does it mean for things like barriers and boundaries is a better word? What does it mean? I've got 3 young kids. What does it mean if I no longer have a 6 o'clock shut off kind of at work, at the office, and a commute home to chill out? What does it mean for me as a father to go from the spare room here into the kitchen for dinner with the kids at 5:30 and being able to be fully present with them? What does it mean to be able to, for bosses, for example, in hybrid working, what does it mean if you're going to go in perhaps 2 or 3 days a week now, What does it mean to say, actually, I'm not going to go in every day because my team are now hybrid or remote. I need to make sure that I'm setting an example and I'm not putting people that are perhaps don't have access to an office as regularly at a disadvantage. They call this the principle of proximity, right? Proximity bias. So where do we go from here? And I think it's all about servant leadership. And so it really now is no longer the job of the boss, of the management, in order to make people do work so that management and the company can flourish. What the pandemic has done is, I believe it's accelerated a trend that was happening already, where if we go back to that triangle, you've got management at the top, and you do really well if you're kind of a lower platform worker. You do really well if you can work your way up this pyramid. But essentially, what's happened now, and it's being heightened by the war for talent and what the newspaper articles are calling the Great Resignation, people now have choice for where they want to work. And there is a global, we've got team everywhere from Holland to the UK, East, West Coast, US. There is a global shortage of amazing talent. And so that pyramid has now been flipped upside down. And the management are at the bottom of that pyramid, I believe. And it's now management's job, in order for the company to flourish, they've got to make their people flourish. And making their people flourish, I've only got a few minutes to talk today, but one of those ways is by giving them flexibility. And giving them flexibility means perhaps moving to a hybrid or a remote model and not having to commute half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour each way to come into the office. Giving people that time to be in their families more, to be in community, to perhaps take some greenhouse gases off the table from your commute. But it's really this opportunity to come in and say, how do I, as a manager, as a leader, how do I support you to do my best work, to do your best work? And if you think about it, there is really no more successful an organization in the history of time that's remote and distributed than the church. And what does the church, if we're to look at the church as an example of how to do distributed, remote, hybrid work really well, what does it do amazingly? Well, its leadership, Jesus Christ, set an amazing vision. That vision is repeated by his senior management team. That senior management team spread the news. They were infectious, for want of a better word, in a pandemic world. They were infectious with their enthusiasm for the mission, the vision, the values. They had no central meeting place. The temple was gone shortly after Jesus was in heaven, went to heaven. The temple was gone. They were on the run. They were facing persecution. And that may be where you are today, right? As a Christian facing persecution. But you know that when you're distributed, there is so much strength. If you can have consistent mission, vision, values communicated in a way that's inspiring. And so I believe that it's absolutely crucial for leadership in this hybrid world, in this remote world, in this completely new way of working, to be inspirational for their teams, setting a vision. And secondly, and I'll kind of leave it here for time's sake, it's absolutely crucial that human resources, the HR teams, they become elevated in their roles inside an organization. HR for a long time, they've set the vacation times, they've set how long you can have for sick leave, they've set all sorts of kind of classic things. Whereas now, in this new way of working, HR has a huge opportunity to become the creators and curators of the toolkit that enables people to do their best work. So that toolkit may involve amazing collaborative space, Zoom, Slack, Google Drive, etc. So that toolkit, and being on the edge, the cutting edge of things, in order to make sure that your people have the very best tools, enabled to do the best work wherever they find themselves and with whomever they want to be and whenever they can, in order to fulfill your company's mission, vision, and values, becomes really crucial. So The world has changed forever. It's not going back to the way it was before. And servant leadership, as part of the hybrid and remote culture that's coming forwards now, is going to be absolutely crucial. And your work will make no sense to you unless you put it in some kind of story. So I'd encourage you to think about how, now that I am perhaps entering a hybrid or remote first environment, how am I bringing order out of chaos as a kingdom bearer in this time and in this season?